Welcome to the chalkboard, my fellow football nerds, for episode number 94 of Chalk Talk, brought to you by the Painted Lines. I'm your host, Shane Half, and you can follow me on Twitter at halfandhalf_TPL. You can follow me on YouTube at ShaneHalfNFL. I'm flying solo today for this Super Bowl recap show, and although normally on this podcast, nobody listens to this podcast and doesn't realize that I come from an Eagles background. It's why we lead off with the Eagles game every week. It's why we spend more time on the Eagles game before we talk about all of the rest of the game. So I'm not necessarily going to try to hide that a little bit of bias. I'm going to talk about the game and a little bit of try to take an objective look. But at the end, I'm going to circle back and talk about, from the Eagles' perspective, what it means. So if you guys are watching here live on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, wherever you're watching, drop us a comment. I've already got RW Swope chiming in on YouTube. What's up, man? Frequent chatter in our chat. Always appreciate you guys. So drop your comments as we go along here, and I'll try to get to as many of them as I can. I've also got a little reveal at the end of the podcast. So if you're listening on Apple, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast later, you'll have to tune in to the video cast, or I will tweet a link to the picture later, but I've got something to reveal to you guys that I think is pretty cool. I think you're going to like. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in to the Super Bowl 57 recap show. The Kansas City Chiefs win the game 38-35 after a 10-point comeback, trailed by 10 at the half. Let's just get into it. I'm going to try to sort of walk through this game and some of the big moments in it, which is a little different format, but we've only got one game to talk about. So the Eagles got the ball first in this game and did exactly what you would have wanted them to do. Going on an 11-play, 75-yard drive, they took almost 5 minutes off the clock. It's what you wanted to see. You wanted to see them able to establish the run, although the run did falter down the stretch, but you wanted them to be able to go on methodical drives and show that they could keep Mahomes off the field when necessary. And so the Eagles marched down the field. One of the biggest things in this game, I thought, was that they stayed aggressive, which I really liked. And we didn't really see that on the first drive so much, but that comes into play later in the game. Of course, the Chiefs answered right back with a 6-play, 75-yard touchdown drive. And they never hit a third down in that game. Or not in that game, excuse me. They never hit a third down on that drive. They had basically 6 plays, 2 plays to get a first down each time, and just methodically go right down the field. And so at that point, my faith started to waver. I went from, I feel really good, to this is going to be a shootout. We got a comment here from Derpy Entertainment on YouTube chiming in. The end was great. The game was great until the end. I had fun. I absolutely agree. It was a fantastic Super Bowl, in my opinion. And you could argue this shows some bias, but I really don't think so. I would argue that this was the best Super Bowl since 2017 from an entertainment standpoint. There's been, some games that were a bit of a slog. Last year's game was pretty good, but I would say this one was better. So I thought it was a really good game. But so the Chiefs answered back with that touchdown, and now you think, okay, we're going to be in for a barn burner in this game. And then the Eagles make a crucial mistake. They go 3 and out, and part of that is because of an offensive pass interference penalty called on Zach Pascal on the first play of the drive. It put them behind the sticks for a 1st and 20. I saw a lot of people confused about that play call, so I'll just do my best here to explain what happened. By rule, a receiver cannot block more than 1 yard past the line of scrimmage until the pass is caught. So it was a little swing pass out to Kenny Gainwell. Zach Pascal was past 1 yard blocking. That's a flag, OPI. You don't see it very often, but that's a flag. Now, people showed some screenshots of some plays where the Chiefs had guys blocking downfield, but as best I could tell on those screenshots, those were offensive linemen, and offensive linemen play by different rules. Eagles fans would be well aware with the illegal man downfield penalty. The rule for an offensive lineman is you can't go past a yard until the pass is thrown. So you can be more than a yard downfield blocking once the pass is out of their hand as a lineman. You have to wait until it's caught as a receiver. So that's the key distinction there. So anyways, it put the Eagles at a 1st and 20. And then I thought they had a questionable decision to run the ball on 1st and 20, and then they threw a short pass behind the line of scrimmage, and it got them to a 3rd and 14. I didn't really love that. I would love to see you be more aggressive, but it is what it is, and they punted the ball. And so now the Chiefs have the ball, and they drive down the field, and then you hit what I thought was a huge edge in this game. That on a 3rd and 3, Patrick Mahomes throws an incomplete pass at the 24-yard line, and Andy Reid elects to go for the field goal, and then Harrison Butker dings it off the left upright. And so that's great. Like, the aggressiveness, I thought that was a critical moment in the game, because the Eagles get the ball back and they march right down the field and they scored 5 plays, 68 yards, hit a big play for a touchdown there to A.J. Brown. And so you go up 14-7 at the end of the first quarter, and again, you're just oscillating back and forth between how you feel. So that brings us to the end of the first quarter, the Eagles winning 14-7, and then in the second quarter, the Chiefs come out and it's a 3-and-out. You get Isaiah Pacheco tackled behind the line of scrimmage on a 1st and 10. That put them behind the sticks, and it allowed the pass rush to tee off. The pass rush did not get to play very often in this game, cutting things loose and going after the passer, and it worked here. They punt the ball, and so the Eagles get the ball back, and they're up a score. And at that point, again, you feel great. And then disaster strikes. On a 2nd and 1, they hand the ball off to Kenny Gainwell, and Kenny Gainwell slipped. And so it goes to a 3rd and 1. And then Isaac Seumalo false starts when the Eagles are lining up for a QB sneak. So they come out on a 3rd and 6. They try to run a QB run, and Jalen Hurts drops the football. Maybe his hand got contacted. He was trying to switch hands as it happened, and the ball just comes out. Nick Bolton scoops and scores it for a touchdown, and that ties the game back up at 14. So really deflating there. But the Eagles answered back, right? 12-play, 75-yard drive. They went for it on a 4th and 7, which is just crazy. Like 3rd and 7 at the Kansas City 46, and they called a run play, which I'm not crazy about. But they called a run play because they were going for it on 4th down. It's such a cheat to the system. They did the same thing later in the drive on a 3rd and 3 at the 9-yard line. They ran it up the middle. Boston Scott gets a yard, and then they line up on 4th down to go for it, and they got a neutral zone infraction out of the QB sneak formation. They end up scoring a touchdown. Honestly, the Eagles, they're playing like I played Madden when I was 10 years old, right? You get 4 downs. It felt like such a cheat code to realize you get 4 downs to go score, and other teams they're tying one hand behind their back. They only get 3. And so I loved the aggressiveness from Nick Sirianni in this game and Shane Steichen. They go up 21-14, and then the Chiefs get the ball back. And again, now it's a 2-minute drill situation. There's 2:20 left, and they're in must-pass situations. And the pass rush was able to tee off a little bit, affect the play. All of a sudden, you didn't have to worry about the run, which the Eagles were bad at stopping, and you get the punt in halftime. Unfortunately, those feelings wouldn't last. Derpy chiming in on YouTube again says, from a Steelers fan's perspective, it was the most fun he had since 43. So that's awesome. I really do think this was a great game. I think it would be an instant classic game. Unfortunately, the ending we'll get to was kind of anticlimactic, but I'll get into that when we get there. So you come out in the second half, and the Chiefs just walked the ball down the field. 10 plays, 75 yards, took 5.5 minutes. They had a 3rd and 1, and that was about it. On that 3rd and 1, they lined up in like the old school pro style formation, QB under center, 2 running backs flanked out to the side, and they did the little off tackle run. And McKinnon got 14 yards. They never had a 3rd down again on that drive, and they scored to make it 21-24. And then comes the critical moment. The Eagles need to answer back with a touchdown. They get a 17-play, 60-yard drive that eats 7 minutes and 45 seconds off of the clock. Like, we're talking Patrick Mahomes is getting the ball for the second time in the second half with a minute left in the quarter. And that's exactly what you want, except the drive doesn't end in a touchdown, right? With a 3rd and 14, Jalen Hurts drops a dime to Dallas Goedert, ends up getting challenged. It stands. By the way, one of the best throws that I've ever seen. Actually, I'll check that. That is the best throw I've ever seen Jalen Hurts make in his career. I'm going to cut up some of his throws and put it on Twitter later this week. But that throw, I saw at the snap, I saw at the bottom of the screen the corner open up in a cloud technique. And then, of course, they disappear off of the broadcast view and you can't see them. But when Hurts set his feet to the right and he threw that corner route to Dallas Goedert, I just went, oh no. Like, I knew there's a cloud corner sinking under that route, and then the ball is just inches over his finger, drops right in front of the safety. Goddard catches it, takes the hit. Just an incredible throw on 3rd and 14 to pick up that first down, and that was huge. There's a huge difference in giving the ball back with 6 minutes in the third, only up 3, and converting that, which the Eagles did. They get to a 3rd and 1 run, don't get it, so they went to the 4th and 1 sneak to convert it. But then, unfortunately, the Eagles sort of fell apart on this drive. Jalen Hurts runs out of bounds a yard behind the line of scrimmage, kind of one of those free runner plays on first down. Then on 2nd and 11, it's an incomplete pass, and then they called a timeout to save a delay of game, something they hadn't done earlier in the drive. It went from 3rd and 11 to 3rd and 16, and then they converted it. This time they called the timeout, and I think they regretted that later. I understand why they did it, but 5 yards isn't worth it in that situation. Jalen Hurts ends up checking the ball down to Kenny Gainwell on 3rd and 11, and they kick a field goal on 4th and 6. And I felt like that's a situation. I understand why you called the timeout. I understand why you kicked the field goal. I would have liked, if you're willing to kick a field goal in that situation, I don't think you take the timeout. And if you take the timeout, that's got to be 4-down territory in my situation. So they call the timeout. It results in nothing except a field goal. And now all of a sudden you're only up 6, and the ball goes back to Patrick Mahomes. And Patrick Mahomes did what he does. 9 plays, 75 yards. They didn't get to a 3rd down until the touchdown play. And that touchdown play, we saw it. It was the first time we saw it, but we're going to see it again, where they motion Kadarius Toney and to the back of a stack, and then they have him release back out into the flat. The coverage gets pushed wrong for the Eagles. Darius Slay tries to push the coverage. Avonte Maddox doesn't push the coverage, and they both end up on the same guy. Easy touchdown, and now the Chiefs have a lead, 28-27, for the first time in the game with 12 minutes left in the 4th quarter. And so now we talk about the ill-fated decision to punt. The Eagles get the ball, and they go 3 and out. And on a 3rd and 3, they throw the ball to Devonta Smith. It's incomplete. On that play, it was a protection issue. The Eagles left a free runner from the left side, and Jordan Mailata and the left guard, Landon Dickerson, double-teamed a guy, and they left someone wide open with a free run at Hurts. Hurts had A.J. Brown wide open over the middle, but he never had a chance to see it because he was already running for his life. And he escaped. He flips his hips. He tries to throw downfield to Devonta Smith, but it falls incomplete. And then on 4th and 3 at the 32-yard line, Nick Sirianni made the fateful decision. He punted the football back to the Kansas City Chiefs. And I just don't understand that decision. That was a bad decision. And I think if you ask Nick Sirianni, and maybe somebody has, I went on an Aaron Rodgers style darkness retreat. I've kind of closed out social media, and I just didn't listen to interviews, and I didn't want to talk about this game for a day or two. And so maybe somebody asked him about this. I haven't read all of the coverage, but I think if you asked him, he would tell you that that was the wrong call, and I don't think he would make it if he finds himself in that situation in the future. You've given up back-to-back touchdowns. You haven't shown that you can stop Patrick Mahomes in this half. He's just shredding your defense. And so to punt the ball against the 49ers 2 weeks ago, it was 4th and 1, but it was from your own 30-something, and you went for it. Now, you could QB sneak that. You can't QB sneak a 4th and 3, but heck, QB sneak 3rd and 3, and then QB sneak again on 4th and 3. You were running all game to set up your 4th down conversions. Or just go for it on the 4th and 3. I really think they should have gone for that. They did not. Aaron Siposs shanked the punt. It was supposed to be a punt left, setting up the coverage. He shanked it off the right of his foot, and Kadarius Toney ends up running it all the way back to the 5-yard line before he gets out of bounds. And so, of course, 3 plays later, the Chiefs score a touchdown. This time it's Sky Moore doing the fake motion back out. Avonte Maddox is halfway across the box before he realizes that Sky Moore didn't go with him. And now the Chiefs are up 35-27. And this is a point where I feel like Andy Reid made a critical error. You're up 7. If you kick the extra point, you're up 8. It's still a 1-score game. Or you could go for 2. And if you get it, now it's a 2-score game with 9 minutes and 22 seconds left. You're putting the Eagles in a situation where you don't have to worry about them running as much. They've got to hurry up. And so you could take guys out of the box. You could just play the pass. Now, Jalen Hurts was playing great, but I thought that was a mistake. I thought it was as low risk a proposition as you can get. Like, if you go for 2 and don't get it, you're still up 7. And the Eagles are probably, maybe not, they're probably going to kick the extra point. So it felt a lot like a nothing risked to gain a lot. And he made the decision to kick the extra point. And I thought it was the second time in the game Andy Reid cost his team an analytical edge. And for a moment, you thought that it would cost them. As the Eagles go right down the field, 8 plays, 75 yards, it takes 4 minutes, they convert 2 third downs. You have the huge pass to Devonta Smith, 45 yards, and he goes out of bounds at the 2-yard line. And then they end up scoring. And then the Eagles line up to go for 2. 5:15 left in the game. This is you got to get this. If you don't, the Chiefs can just try to end the game. And they call just a QB power play. And there's a freeze frame on this clip that I'll tweet out later. But Jalen Hurts is contacted by 4 Chiefs defenders 1.5 yards from the end zone. And if you freeze frame that and you told me that Jalen Hurts got into the end zone, I wouldn't believe you. But it's incredible. He powers through into the end zone with the injured shoulder, I might add. He's rolling left. This is his right shoulder, his injured shoulder. Puts it down, gets into the end zone, game on the line, and he ties the game at 35. And so there's 5 minutes left. The only thing you can't do if you're the Eagles is allow the Chiefs to go on a long drive to end the game. Get a stop. Get your first stop of the half, and you're probably going to win the game. Give up a quick touchdown, and you get the ball last. That's what you need. But the Chiefs were just able to methodically move down the field. The running game was working. There was short passing. They did get to a 3rd and 1, and then Isaiah Pacheco ripped off a 10-yard run. And then you get down to the key 3rd and 8, right? Patrick Mahomes drops back to pass. Juju Smith-Schuster runs like a double move route. The ball's overthrown. It's incomplete. It's going to be a field goal with 1:54 left. And the flag comes out. And they called defensive holding on James Bradbury. It's an automatic first down. And it essentially let the Chiefs, they didn't necessarily kneel it out on the first play, but then they went ahead and knelt the ball out. And they kicked the field goal essentially as time expires. There were 6 seconds left for a Hail Mary for the Eagles. That flag just robbed this game of its instant classic. And, you know, we can debate whether or not it should have been a penalty. And, of course, Chiefs fans would tell you that was a penalty. Eagles fans would tell you that shouldn't be a penalty. And I'm not going to appeal to my thoughts on that. Instead, what I want to do is I want to appeal to the thoughts of Greg Olsen. Greg Olsen, a former offensive player, a tight end in the National Football League, who said on broadcast, a guy who would be biased towards the offensive players, he says you cannot throw the flag in that situation. And there were several other receivers, active players who came out on Twitter and said that shouldn't have been a flag. And, you know, whether that should be a flag or not, and yeah, you can show the freeze frame where he's got a little bit of the jersey, but the reality is you spend every game's officiated a little differently. You spend some time early in a game. You know, I played basketball, and when I played basketball, my thing was always that I was going to go out and I was going to pick up a foul in the first couple minutes of the game because I was going to figure out how much the officials would let you get away with. How much jersey could I grab? How much could I push off when I was driving? Things like that. And so I was going to push it as far as I could, find where that line was, get the flag or get the foul called on me in the first quarter, and then I was just going to take a little step back. All game, these guys were let play. Jalen Hurts attempted 38 passes. Patrick Mahomes, 27. That's 65 combined passes in the game. And the 65th pass was the first flag thrown on a defender. The first flag thrown on a defensive back. And it was not out of line with things that were let go during the rest of the game. And so I am not a big fan of you can't call it in that moment. You should officiate the last minute of a game the same way you did the first 59. But they didn't. We got ticky-tack in the last minute of the game. And that just feels like it was such rob job. Like, the 1:54 left. And instead of a team getting to kneel it down and kick an extra point as time expired, what if we kick the field goal and Jalen Hurts has a chance to lead a scoring drive? It's instant classic game. I'm not saying they would have won or lost. It would have just been a much more satisfying outcome. And so that was very deflating, and it does knock this game down just a little bit for me in how I end up feeling about it in the grand scheme of things. And listen, there are plenty of opportunities the Eagles had to win this football game. Don't punt the ball on 4th and 2. Stop Patrick Mahomes one time in the entire fourth quarter. Don't fumble the ball for 6. Don't kick a field goal from inside your own red zone. There were opportunities. But all week, what I told you guys was that this was going to be a one-score game, and it was going to come down to who had the ball last. And a ticky-tack foul or ticky-tack flag thrown at the end of the game changed who got the ball last. And that's just disappointing, and it leaves a bad taste in my mouth in terms of just the overall feel of the game, the legacy of the game, how you think about it moving forward. It feels a lot like the Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes game last year in the playoffs, where it went to overtime, and Josh Allen never got to touch the ball, right? And rules were changed because of that. The last time Jalen Hurts touched the ball, he threw a 45-yard dot to Devonta Smith, and then he powered through 4 defenders with an injured shoulder into the end zone, and he never touched it again. And that sucks. It sucks to see that. Let me go to a couple comments, and then I'll talk about a few stats here. We've got Derpy said, Patrick Mahomes, baby voice, be like if honest into the camera. I'd like to thank the Academy and my pet zebras. Yeah, there's certainly some things there. We got Frank on Facebook said, NFL Network has been replaying it a few times already, and every time I see it, there's another play I see that makes a huge difference. The Sayamalo twitch, instead of a Hurt sneak for a first down, becomes the 3rd down Hurt fumble TD. The delayed game that stalled a big drive, getting a field goal. Yeah, there's a lot of edges. And there's a lot of edges, like I said, there's a lot of edges beyond that one call from an official. And that's why, James Bradbury, I respect him a lot, saying, yeah, I held him. I thought they were going to let that go. And he didn't say this, but it's because they let that go all game. And I expect them to step up and take accountability and not blame officials, because that's the kind of culture they are. That's the type of environment that's been cultivated in Philadelphia. So that didn't surprise me at all, and I'm very happy to see that being the approach that they've taken. So shout out to the Eagles for that. And shout out to the Chiefs, who played a fantastic game. Andy Reid had a fantastic game plan in this game. That touchdown that they ran a few times, that came from the game all the way back at the beginning of the season against the Jaguars, when the Jaguars scored a touchdown on that same thing. And so Andy Reid's one of the best offensive play callers to ever do it. Patrick Mahomes on a gimpy ankle, 21-27 for 182 yards, 3 touchdowns. He had a 96.4 QBR, which I believe I heard was the highest QBR in Super Bowl history. The Chiefs were able to run the ball, 6.1 yards per carry. And I said coming into the game that I thought the key for the Eagles would be, as crazy as this sounds, to stop the run and force Mahomes to beat them from the pocket, which sounds like a disaster waiting to happen, but it's a bigger disaster if you can never get them into must-pass situations. Travis Kelce, of course, always has good games, 6 receptions, 81 yards, and a touchdown. Juju had 7 for 53, and nobody else really did a lot through the air for the Chiefs. On the Eagles side, Jalen Hurts was 27 of 38 for 304 yards and a touchdown. He took 2 sacks. Both of those were scrambles out of bounds, just a yard behind the line of scrimmage. He had 15 carries for 70 yards and 3 touchdowns. Outside of him, there was no running game for the Eagles. The Chiefs said, we're going to stop the running game and make you beat us with your arm, and he did it, and he played a fantastic game. Devonta Smith had 7 receptions, 100 yards. A.J. Brown, 6 for 96 and a touchdown. Dallas Goedert, 6 for 60 yards. And then, of course, that super important fumble that was lost. So, statistically, great game, clash of titans. Obviously, the playing field, the playing surface was absolutely atrocious in this game. That was an embarrassment to the NFL. And I said that when the Eagles were winning by 10, that this is awful. And I do think that it impacted the Eagles' pass rush a lot. Obviously, both teams played on it, but the Eagles' pass rush was supposed to be their edge. It was what they had over the Chiefs. It was the nice matchup, but Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick couldn't bend around the corner to rush. Their feet kept sliding out, and so with no pass rush, there was nothing. And a lot of people upset at Jonathan Gannon, and I guess we'll talk about this now. Jonathan Gannon's the new head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. A lot of people are upset with him and his performance in this game, and I've been a Gannon defender throughout the year, and I thought his game plan coming into the game made sense. They played more man coverage than they've played this season because you're not super worried about their receivers. Get up, play man coverage. It was one of the highest, I think it was by far the highest rate of man coverage they played this season. And it just didn't work. Guys didn't make plays. Guys didn't stick on their receivers. And part of that's due to the pass rush. When you're able to hold the ball, if Patrick Mahomes wasn't doing quick game, he could hold the ball and extend plays because there was no pass rush. It's hard to cover. The pass rush and the coverage, they've got to be married together. So I thought his game plan coming in was good. My fault with Gannon in this game is that he didn't adjust. You've got to realize at some point your game plan is not working. You don't just keep doing the same thing and hope that eventually it's going to rectify itself and you're going to get that one stop. If you can't get a pass rush, blitz. And that's normally not what you want to do to Mahomes, but look at what the Chiefs were doing. They were bringing zone blitzes. They were simulating pressures. They were getting a free runner at Hurts sometimes, only sending 4 or sending 5. You could still get guys into coverage and get free runners that disrupted the flow. The third down before the 4th and 3 punt, A.J. Brown wide open and Hurts couldn't find him because there was a free runner. There's a few other times that there were free runners and he was able to make a miss and make a play. Is Patrick Mahomes going to do that on a messed up ankle? And so I fault Gannon not for his game plan coming into the game, but for his lack of adjustments once things started to go sideways. And it's really disappointing because Pershil Kapadia, he dug this up, in 400 Eagles games since the year 2000, in 400, this defensive performance ranked 391st in EPA per drive. It was 395th in success rate. And that's part of what makes this feel so empty as an Eagles fan. If Jalen Hurts went into this game and he hadn't looked great in the couple games previous when he came back from injury, and there's extenuating circumstances, vanilla game plan, week 18, blowouts, the 2 playoff games, fine, whatever. If he just didn't look on top of his game, he didn't play his A game, and the Eagles lost, and he missed a deep throw or 2. He took a couple sacks he shouldn't have. You could say, man, Hurts played great this year. He proved he's the guy. Maybe the injury was nagging him a little bit, and the rest of the roster just didn't step up enough, and he got beat by Patrick Mahomes. It happens. Jalen Hurts didn't play his A game. He played his A++ game. This was the best game of his career. He had negative 8.5 EPA on that fumble 6. If you remove that, which obviously you can't remove that, I just want you to see how good of a game he played, minus 1 play that would skew the numbers. He had 22.6 EPA, over 0.4 EPA per play. That was a phenomenal performance. It was every bit as good as Patrick Mahomes. He made throws that were unbelievable. He played his best game. He put up 35 points. He had a 10-point halftime lead, and they lost. And they lost because they had one of the worst defensive performances of this millennium for the Eagles. There's only been 9 games that the Eagles have played this millennium with worse defensive EPA per drive. Only 5 with a worse success rate. And that sucks. And it sucks. And now what? Now you got to move on to next season. And all of a sudden you've got 12 players in this game who played 15 plus snaps on defense, and 8 of them are free agents now. This is going to be a team with a lot of roster turnover on defense. You're losing your defensive coordinator. You lost your offensive coordinator. We'll talk about that in a minute. And now you're going to pay Jalen Hurts. And you're going to figure out what to do from there. And I've seen some qualms online about paying Jalen Hurts. It's over now, right? What are you going to do? You lost the rookie quarterback window. And that's not true. First of all, he's got 1 more year. So depending on how they structure the extension, it could be a very low cap number next year. But also, if you look back at the Super Bowl winners that have the Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, and you think about their contracts, it's not a lot of guys on rookie deals. Let me go to a comment here. I've got Derpy says, I think it's a bit curious that you were the best pass rush team the entire year, but don't show up in the big game, and the Chiefs O-line is good, but not the best. And Yeah, I think, honestly, the field had a lot to do with that. Um, Guys couldn't rush off the edge. You got to be able to explode out of a stance, and you've got to be able to bend around the edges. And every time they tried that, guys just fell down. And so that sucks. That's where Gannon's got to adjust, and it's inexcusable that he didn't. But up here on the screen, I've got a list of Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. This year, Patrick Mahomes not on a rookie contract. Let's just stop when I get to a rookie contract guy. Matthew Stafford, 2021. Tom Brady, 2020. Patrick Mahomes, 2019. Tom Brady, 2018. Nick Foles, 2017. Tom Brady, 2016. Peyton Manning, 2015. Tom Brady, 2014. Russell Wilson, in 2013, is the last quarterback, I believe, to win a Super Bowl on a rookie contract. And before him, you've got Joe Flacco, Eli Manning, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Ben Roethlisberger. Like the rookie contract thing, it's nice. You don't have to have it. You want the quarterback, and you want a quarterback that can cover the deficiencies up. And I believe that Jalen Hurts is that guy. I believe that the Eagles' offensive nucleus is intact. They're going to lose Isaac Seumalo. We're not sure what's going to happen with Jason Kelce. I feel like he's going to come back. If he does, you probably plug Cam Jurgens in at right guard. You get a new running back and a new wide receiver 3, and your offense is ready to run it back. The defense is where it's all about. And comments here hitting it right on the head. Most of your defense is old. There's a lot of changes to come, and that's absolutely correct. There's going to be a lot of changes here. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. So Jonathan Gannon leaves. And I think Denard Wilson is he's the name floating around, the Eagles' defensive backs coach that may get promoted. And I'm fine with that. I don't think they're going to rush this, though. Because you're losing, well, you're not losing them all, but you've got 8 of the 12 guys that played a lot in the Super Bowl are free agents. You're going to have a lot of roster turnover. That means you can pretty much make this defense into whatever you want. You don't have to stick with being a base 3-3-5 team. You don't have to be a quarters team. You can be a 4-3 team, 4-2-5, 3-4. You can be whatever you want to be. And so I think it's really important they get a guy in. Free agent tampering starts almost a month from today, March 13th. You want to get your defensive coordinator in, and you want to get his opinion on these guys, who's important for his scheme, and so you can sort of prioritize your signings around that. So I think the Eagles will move quickly. I think they should interview a lot of guys, get ideas, figure out what you want to do. A name that I really like is Mike Zimmer. Mike Zimmer, of course, got fired by the Vikings after last year. He went to Jackson State and was an analyst for Deion Sanders. And I think he followed him to Colorado State. He's not in the NFL. He took a year off. Mike Zimmer, not a good head coach. Very interesting defensive coordinator. He's kind of a chaos sort of defensive coordinator, simulated pressures, things like that. Now, he's not like Wink Martindale crazy chaos where it's just cover 1, cover 0, blitz every play. He lines guys up in the A-gaps, and he shows 7, and he sends 4 or 5, but you don't know which 4 or 5, and it creates chaos. And I would like to see a system like that, especially, if you're got the opportunity to start with almost a blank slate on your defense. And so I like the idea of Mike Zimmer. So something to keep an eye on there. Just a name to slip out there for you Eagles fans that are still listening to this podcast. I think he would be an interesting choice. I got no problem with Wilson if they decide to do that. I think they should interview a lot of guys, and I'll dig into more of those as it happens. But then Shane Steichen leaves too, goes to be the coach of the Colts, and that one hurts a lot. Steichen was a fantastic play caller. He was a fantastic play sequencer. And the Eagles are going to miss him. Now, they're going to promote Brian Johnson. Adam Schefter basically said it's done. It just hasn't been announced yet. And it's been insinuated there were 6 teams that were going to hire Brian Johnson to be their offensive coordinator had he not stayed with the Eagles, presumably because he knew Steichen was leaving and he was going to get the promotion. I think Brian Johnson's a fantastic choice here. He's exactly who I would bring in. The problem is, he's got the relationship with Hurts, all of that. The problem is we don't know how he is as a play caller. And Sirianni doesn't call plays anymore. Steichen did, and he was very, very good at it. So from a design aspect, I think you won't see much of a drop-off. It's to be determined how he's going to do as a play caller, though. Sometimes that takes some getting used to. And so I could see there being growing pains with that early next season. The one thing I hope that he does better than Steichen did is building in hot reads, hot answers to blitzes. That's something that has not been in the Eagles' offense. There were several times in the Super Bowl that you had a free runner, Jalen Hurts was hot, and there was no hot answer to the blitz. And I can't imagine that's because Hurts is incapable of seeing that. It's just like it wasn't in the offense. Their hot answer was Jalen Hurts' legs. And that's a boom or bust thing. He can make big plays, but sometimes you end up like a 3rd and 3 on a crucial drive in the Super Bowl when you can't make the guy miss, and now you have to punt. And they need that. They need those hot answers. They need to be able to win from the pocket quick against those sorts of blitzes before teams have an offseason to adjust and dial up more of that heat. So I hope Brian Johnson is able to improve on that. Got a comment coming in here from Junior on YouTube. I think we have a 2 or 3 year window to sign a few 1-year deals like we did this year. Salary cap is really hard to suss out. I haven't gotten into the nuts and bolts of that on over the cap and stuff, but I never worry about the cap with Howie Roseman. He's one of the best at managing the cap. The way he rebounded from the Wentz contract and other things, he does a really good job with that. So I'm not concerned about the cap. I think they're going to be able to make that work, and that's not really a big concern for me. So that's kind of my thoughts on the Super Bowl, what it means for Eagles fans moving forward. If you are a whole NFL podcast sort of person that listens to this for my takes on the NFL as a whole, don't go anywhere. This isn't turning into just an Eagles podcast, but hey, they were one of 2 teams that were playing in this game. So I'm going to have you guys covered. I'm going to start into draft shows next week. So next week, I'm going to kick it off with a full first-round mock draft, and then we'll start doing top 5 position rankings. We'll do other off-season things as well, some creative shows, but it'll be heavily draft-focused with maybe a breaking news podcast or 2 as we go along. So before I get you guys out of here, though, I do want to show you something that I have been working on that I'm pretty excited about. As you guys know, I may have mentioned it a few weeks ago, I'm off of my free podcast hosting, which let me push it out to multiple places, not just iTunes. So we're on Spotify, Stitcher, FM radio, all these different, wherever you want to get a podcast, we should be there. Now, it's distributed everywhere. We were having problems with the old feed. We couldn't get it to go anywhere else, and some of the stuff just wasn't uploading very good. And so this should be better quality for you guys. It is no longer free for me to host that. This podcast, my content will always be free for you guys, but I do want to try to find a way to pay for it if I can. So I've been working on a Chalk Talk merchandise store that I got all of my designs finalized today, and I ordered samples, and it's going to take them 2 weeks to get here. And I don't want to put it out there for you guys until I get the samples and make sure that it's not crap. I don't want you to waste your money. I'd rather waste mine if it comes to that. But I'm talking like mugs, water bottles, t-shirts, mouse pads, hats, phone cases, all kinds of different stuff. If there's things you guys would like, then let me know, and we'll get it out there for you guys. I've got a Hassan Reddick shirt that I'm really excited about, but I'm not going to show you yet, from my rant that I went on a few weeks ago, the Hassan of House Reddick, the breaker of pass protections, that whole thing. So that's going to be a real cool shirt. But I'm going to show you the basic Chalk Talk shirt here. So this is the design. It's just got our Chalk Talk logo here on the front. And so if you guys want to support the podcast, again, content will always be free. You guys just liking it, sharing it and stuff, that helps me out a lot too. But if you want some Chalk Talk merch, it's going to be priced. It'll be out there. It'll be priced. I'll have it up in about 2 weeks once I get my samples. I'll probably do like an unboxing video and show you guys what I ordered and then walk you through all the stuff I have in the store. So there it is. I'll tweet this clip out for you, or I'll tweet this video, picture, whatever. I can't talk. I'll tweet this picture out for those of you that are audio listeners later, so you can check it out as well. And so that's going to wrap it up here. We got Junior chiming in on YouTube. He says, love the content. Really appreciate that, Junior. Thanks for stopping by. Thank you, everyone, for following along with us this season. This has been a huge year for me. This season started, and I had like 200 some odd followers on Twitter, and I was just a guy with a microphone. And now I'm on the BGN feed. I'm still doing this. I'm up to like 3,800 followers on Twitter, and it's all because of you guys. And the content that I put out, I'm putting out what you guys want because you've told me it's what you want. And so you guys keep telling me what you want, and we're going to make it happen. So I've loved the conversations I've had with you guys. I'm not going anywhere. We're going to be diving off into draft coverage next week. It'll be right here in this feed. So thank you everyone for joining us for episode number 94 of Chalk Talk. If you enjoy what you heard on the show, and we know that you do, smash that subscribe button, turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episode. Drop us a 5-star rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow me on Twitter at @halfandhalf_TPL. I'm on YouTube at ShaneHalfNFL. And so I will see you guys next time.